Welcome to Start Before You're Ready, the podcast that proves that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin your journey towards better health and happiness. I'm your host, Kelly Young. Remember, the first step is often the hardest, but it's always worth taking. Hey guys, it's Kelly, and I'm back with another episode of Start Before You're Ready. And my guest today is somebody that is so special to me. And I can't believe we've only known each other since 2021, because I really feel like I've known her my whole life. We have a lot in common, and she's somebody that I really, really respect. I've gotten to know her on a deeper level over the last few years, and I'm really excited for her to share her story and some of the lessons that she has learned, and just share with you guys some things that I think are going to really help our audience. That's what really this podcast is all about. We want to try to be a source of light and health and hope. And I think that this episode in particular is really going to do that. So my guest today, her name is Lisa Herrington. She is a mom of 5. 4 that are living, 3 boys and 1 little girl, and that alone is obviously something that I can relate to. One of her boys, or 2 of her boys actually, share a birth date with my middle son. We were just talking about that. So we had to share our Mother's Day, right? It's May 11th, right? Yeah. Okay, great. So guys, I'm going to let Lisa introduce herself, and we're going to talk about some pretty deep things today, but we're also going to talk about some fun fitness stuff, and just how both of us are on a mission to help the world be a healthier and happier place. So Lisa, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Herrington, as Kelly said. And Kelly, thank you so much for inviting me to be on. You are, you are a big source of inspiration for me. And with the 3 boys and the girl, and just watching your life and how it parallels a lot with what I'm living right now, and how much you still show up and give to everybody around you. It's really inspiring. And sometimes I look at your stories and I go, okay, Kelly's doing it, I can do it. So you've always been a huge sense of inspiration. And yeah, I love it when people ask it for sisters, because I feel like there's a connection there that
they don't ask if you're sisters. They think we're the same person. That's what
sisters are the same person and the same person, but it's always a compliment. Always. So
someone had a conversation with Lisa and tried to finish the conversation with me, and I was so confused. I'm like, I think you think I'm a different person, and that's before I really knew Lisa. But anyway,
I get that with my own sister, so that's why I feel like you're my sister. So
I love that.
Goes both ways. But yes, as Kelly said, I am a mom of 5. I have 3 boys and a girl, and then I have 1 son in heaven, which we'll get into. And I own a fitness business in Davis, California, up in Northern California. It's been around since 2009. Started as a boot camp in the park, just like a boot camp, a Kelly's boot camp in the, what do you do? The parking lot, right?
It was the parking lot. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that you start something and you build it, and you attract the right people and great energy, and it grows from there. And so, yes, this business has been around for over a decade, and I own it. I have 3 business partners, but I don't own it. I feel like it's our communities. It's our community space. It's everything that, they bring to us and they want and they see and they get excited about. We really try hard to implement, because at the end of the day, it is a fitness studio, but it's a community that is connected through fitness. So that's been a big pride and joy over the last decade. Before that, I was in roles, marketing and PR roles, and that was a great career. I also learned there that I really love people and I love being with them, and that's what I get to do on a daily basis, whether it's instructing clients or it's teaching classes. And so, yeah, I don't know. I've never gotten up and gone, gosh, I don't want to go to work today, because I really love it. And aside from that, life is busy. My oldest just turned 13, as Kelly said, on May 11th. And then I have a 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old. They all are doing way too many activities, but I am not ready to pigeonhole anybody into anything because I'm a big believer in multidisciplinary sports builds, not athletes, but humans kind of from the inside out. So we're really in it right now. And I've got an awesome husband. He supports everything that I do. And I think that we go back and forth on that because we live really busy lives and we still love to get out with friends when we can. And
Yeah,
do the fun
that's
stuff.
good. Don't lose that. That's good. That's
No,
good.
it's priority.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. That's it for now.
So you had, and you and I both we didn't go to college for fitness necessarily. You started off in marketing, and then when did you did an internship at Fitness Quest 10 in the beginning of 2000?
I did. So I went to, if anybody knows where Cal Poly San Luis Obispo is in Central California. And I went there, played soccer for a bit. I played really competitively growing up. And so I think within the first year, I was like, you know what? This isn't fun anymore. And then so I ended up doing a lot of rec and club teams. And I was always in the gym. And people were always asking me about, workout programs, or I have knee pain. What do I do? And I was a communication major. And I just always thought, do I have kinesiology written on my door? I don't think so. But it was what I loved.
Yeah.
And
You radiate
if you
fitness.
love something, you attract that. And then so when I graduated, I moved to San Diego and I worked in community relations for the San Diego Fire Department. And they were implementing a wellness program within all of their departments. And it was a super cool project that I was able to help build from the ground up. Again, because I was excited about it, not because I had gone to school for it. But that experience prompted me to look into furthering my degree in exercise science. So I joined it was a night program at UC San Diego. It was exercise science and fitness instruction. And we were required to do an internship. And I had a list of 30. And I lived pretty far from this little place called Fitness Quest 10.
Yes.
But I drove there. It was 30 minutes from the beach. I drove there and I walked in and I was like, what is this energy? Because it is incredible and I want to be a part of all of it. And so that was Todd Durkin, Fitness Quest 10, which is we're connected through his mastermind now. And it was super cool. I mean, Fitness Quest 10 was first starting. He was whiteboarding with us, what are your career goals? And I was sitting there, I was like, I'm just trying this out for the first time. But I ended up teaching a boot camp class and picking up some clients. And then we moved to Northern California. My husband's job brought us here where my family is. So I'm from here.
Oh, nice.
And I remember Todd said, what are you going to do up there? And I said, I'm not quite sure, but I would love to open a place like this sometime. Still marketing is my PR full-time job. And I said, but I'm not really sure how. And he said, well, just do it. Why don't you just dive in? Totally his personality now. So, it took a few years, but the boot camp was the first. I worked for the Sacramento Kings when we moved back, which was super cool. Again, did some exercise projects with them, even though they were marketing related, but my heart was always in fitness, and not just fitness, but the empowerment that it gave to others. And then there was a point in my career where the Kings were being sold. The team was being sold. And my boss at the time said, I don't know if the team's going to be here next year. And so if you have another opportunity, I would try it or take it. And boot camps had already started. It was a side hustle I was doing in the early mornings and the evenings with a partner. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Let's just try. Let's just open a brick and mortar. And we did. Wow. And so it was like my heart, no matter what I did, no matter what full-time job I had from college until Fit House opened, I always had a side hustle teaching fitness because I was where I belonged. And that's why
Yeah.
I'm here now.
Yeah. So 2008, 2009, you were doing the boot camp still. And then you opened, so you had some clients through the boot camp. So you had some people that wanted probably more of you and your partner or more training. And talk a little bit about that, Lisa, that transition. I'm interested in
Yeah,
that.
so we were this park we started out was really close to an elementary school, and the custodian Felix, I love him dearly because he let us into the MPR. He's retired and happy now. I can share these stories. He let us into the multi-purpose room when it poured rain, so we
Ah,
could use the space before school started.
wow.
And then, we kind of outgrew that even. And finally, we were like, we just need to open something small. At the time, we taught just boot camp and then had personal training clients. And our boot camp classes covered rent. So then, whatever we did personal training wise, we took home. And then from there, I think that yoga, the power of vinyasa yoga was starting to become a thing. And there was an instructor that we knew who lived in town. So we approached her to help start yoga. Same with bar. And it's always been that way. It's cycle. Cycle became big, Soul Cycle happened. And we're like, okay, we can either franchise Soul Cycle here or get certified or find awesome rock star instructors and bring this program to Fit House. So Fit House has always been this hodgepodge of, well, what's going on outside of Davis? Because Davis is a small college town. We have San Francisco, we have all these big cities. So we would look at the trends and then figure out a way to implement them as Fit House
Yeah.
programs.
And I love the word house so much. It speaks so much to me. That's like when we opened Energy, that was what we said, that this is a house for just like you, like to bring this is our home, to bring people together. We still were outside, and it houses so many disciplines, which I think I've heard you say before, it's a small town. They're not going to bring a Soul Cycle. They're not going to bring maybe now, but then certainly not in 2010, 2011. You weren't going to see a Pilates studio. So you brought that all to your community. That is just absolutely amazing. And your demographic is probably pretty diverse, I would imagine. You've got students.
Very,
Okay.
very.
Talk about
We
that.
have, we have people that have been with us since the very beginning.
Yeah.
Tried and true boot campers who heart and soul, I feel like a Fit House, just because they've been through, we've had 4 different locations. We've grown out of locations, or we've been kicked out because cycle was too loud, and the accounting business next door was upset. And so I felt like for a little while, Fit House was a bit of where's Waldo? But
Yeah.
the coolest part is I realized no matter where we were, no matter what the digs looked like, no matter, people showed up. And I'm like, okay, they're not showing up because of what it looks like. They're showing up because of the feeling that they get coming together. And so because of that, it got hard for a while. I mean, especially during the pandemic, but it was like, no, this is important enough to figure out a way to make work and to continue on, because this Fit House, this fitness studio, has changed so many lives. We've seen so many people go through so many things, and I can't think of a single person that has walked through the doors crying, forlorn, depressed, down, and not left with their shoulders a little bit higher and a smile on their face, and just that energy that you've moved something in them and they're going to go out and have a better day. And so it's forever going to go way beyond exercise for me. And I think that sometimes I've heard that either people are intimidated to come to Fit House, or they feel like they need to be in shape to come to Fit House, and going back to the diverse clientele, we have ages all across the board. We have ability levels all across the board. And that goes back to having multiple disciplines. There's something for everybody. We've had a lot of studios open up around us since 2009.
Yeah. Yep.
Most all do one discipline.
Yep.
And although prices can be a little bit higher if you're doing everything at Fit House, the goal is to have a place that people only need to come to that one spot because their
Right.
community is there and
Yep.
they have a little of everything,
So does
so.
it work that your instructors, it's not like all inclusive? If it's like you want to do bar, it's one thing, or how does that work, Lisa?
Sort of. I mean, you're asking me a question that I ask myself all the time. I'm like, this is too much? Like, when you look at you go to the Cheesecake Factory and the menu has 1 million options, so you can't make a decision. I feel like sometimes, but I mean, to be truthful, since we are a college town, we have to be budget friendly. We have
Sure.
to, but then there are people that want to do everything, and
Right.
we are in the middle of downtown Davis. Rent is
Oh
high,
yeah,
expenses are
I'm
high,
sure.
so you can, if you're doing Pilates and yoga, you can just choose that pass, which is
Okay.
awesome. We have a ton of classes. And then if you want to do it all, it's a bit higher, but
Oh,
you're
but you
doing,
can do it all under one package.
yeah. So we have an unlimited membership, and then we have a yoga Pilates, and then we have 10 class passes, which I always encourage anybody to do when it's like you're coming to 1 or 2 classes a week. It's do the 10 class pass option.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
again, kind of goes back to building together, like with
Mhm.
people who
Yep.
are clients in your community and who are totally honest. It's like, what do you guys want? What do you guys need? What is going to help you
Right.
be
Right.
able to stay here? Because that's more important than, you know, we're going to make it work. We're going to make it
Right.
work.
Right. Right.
We're
I
going to
love
make
that.
it work. So,
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
I have to throw in power Pilates right now.
Ooh,
That
tell me
that
about
is the
that.
trend. That's the trend. Pilates across the board. I feel like studios are those classes are packed. Our power Pilates, that is where you find most of the college students. That is where the numbers are. I mean, the classes are packed. And it used to be cycle, and now it's Pilates. And I'm really interested in what is our next trend.
Yeah.
I love this. I
Yeah.
love like
But that's
what's
what's nice
next.
about not being a one-trick pony is that you don't have to worry when your trend is over. I've heard a lot of like some Pilates studios are already closing because it just got oversaturated too quick. It's funny to hear power Pilates because you do have reformers.
No,
So it's
we
a mat
thought about
Pilates.
reformers, but reformers, the class numbers you really have to limit
Sure.
because,
Oh yeah. Oh
but no,
yeah.
they're mat Pilates classes, and we use equipment, and they're heated but not too heated.
Ooh.
And they're awesome. I mean, even I was, to be honest, I was like Pilates, and then we've got the best instructors. I went to a Pilates class, and I'm like, okay, those are muscles that I don't use because I'm using
Yeah.
my strong muscles. So, I love things that put us as instructors in our place.
Yeah. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I'd like to
Yeah.
find out. I
And
don't.
I think, not to cut you off, but I'm just going back to aside from classes, the personal training and the group training, we do that. People don't come in, they can't work out on their own. So it's either
Mhm.
personal training or group training. And that's what I spend most of my time doing. And I just like the small groups and people able to come in and connect with each other and sweat it out together. That is where I see so much magic happen.
I couldn't agree more. I love that. That's awesome. Our models are very similar, and we started off very similar, and our timeline is very similar. Uh, I love that. I love that, Lisa. Let's talk a little bit about. I know we shared earlier in the podcast that one of the things that is really important to you is helping other moms, in particular, through grief, because that is something that you experienced. And if you don't mind sharing, Lisa, I'd love to tell our audience a little bit about your boys.
Yes, I love talking about my boys. It kind of along the same timeline in 2011, so about when brick and mortar was opening, which was my baby. I became pregnant with twin boys, and they were our first kids. And May 11th, 2012, which I remember like it was yesterday. And I think that often happens when something occurs in our life that changes the landscape entirely. And I just remember that being a really beautiful day. And May 10th, 2012. I went to bed that night, and I was about 31 weeks pregnant with the twins. And I'm not going to go into all the details. There's other podcasts about that. But I awoke in the middle of the night to my water breaking, and we rushed to the hospital, and I had the boys. One of them had suffered an umbilical cord accident. They were both taken to hospitals with a high level NICU. We're in a small town, so the hospital I delivered at, because we were like 5 minutes away from it, wasn't fully equipped. But they were both taken to the NICU, and I followed behind in another ambulance because it was just I share those details because it was very traumatic. Going from a life that had never really, yes, hardship, but not a lot of loss, a grandparent, and nothing that really like shook everything. And I go to bed one night and I wake up and this trauma happens and tragedy. And once we were at the hospital with the NICU, my son, who had the umbilical cord accident, he lived for 2 days, and he passed away in my arms with my husband next to me. He lived long enough, I say, for all of my family and whoever could get to the hospital to meet him and to love him, and that is so special to me that we had that time with him. And his brother Luke, who turned 13 on May 11th, he was in the NICU for 6 weeks, and I will never forget once we said goodbye to Brady. And I have to mention that I've never been more present in my entire life. The hours that we had with Brady when I knew we wouldn't have more, there was no time. Time stood still. It was just the most present, beautiful hours that I think I will ever live, because I just knew, and I think that being present is very important to me because I know how important that was. And then I look back and I'm like, why aren't we more present during our, everyday life, especially with the people that we love? Because the truth is, we really have no idea how much time we have with them. So that was a huge lesson that I took from that day. And then once we said goodbye to him, I went into the NICU and I looked at my son Luke, and he had these huge blue eyes and this tiny little head because he was 3.5 pounds. And I just remember him looking up at me, and the look on his face was like, WTF, Mom, what is happening? Get me out of here. And I looked at him and I'm like, and the grief hadn't hit yet. I was still in shock. But I remember looking at him and thinking, this kid needs me. And he is more important and bigger than anything that is about to happen. And I held on to that because the grief got really, really hard. It got dark. It got ugly. It got, and I would say to anybody who's going through something that is, again, changes the landscape and just completely turns your world upside down. It can get really scary. It can feel really lonely. You can get really angry, question everything, be mad that this is your life. And it's really hard to sit in it. It's really hard to sit with those feelings. It's important to sit with those feelings because they're there. You can't run from them. You can try to run from them. But at some point I feel like something will trigger you, or Kelly, you and I were talking about this earlier in the beginning. It was whenever I saw twins, it was like all the feelings would rush back. And, but that was also important. Luke was in the NICU for 6 weeks. As I mentioned, there were lots of twins there. And so I look back at that time, and he gave me a reason to get up in the morning. And then I had to face the triggers every time I walked into the hospital. But I'm also grateful for the time that it took him to grow big and grow strong. And he was a freaking warrior. I mean, he still is. Because I had to be a warrior, and I knew, okay, I'm going to take this time and really try to face the grief and figure out how we're going to move forward when he comes home, because when he comes home, it's going to be a different ball game. And so I think that 6 weeks allowed me to sit in it, because I literally sat. I'm not a sitter, but I sat in the hospital, and and I started to do some of the really important work. And so really feeling the hard stuff, that's an important step. It's huge. And know that it's going to get scary. It's not going to feel good. But then as time goes on, you realize, okay, it's getting easier and easier to get up, or to take one step forward, or to go and help somebody else who's going through this. And so the grief in the beginning was new to me. I'd never felt these feelings. There's been things that have happened since then, and I feel more equipped to handle the emotions, because I know what they feel like, because I was willing to sit in them. And I've developed tools over the last 13 years to help me, and practices to help me move forward, to recognize and move forward when life gets tough. And I think that I was so grateful that fitness was a part of my journey already, because I remember looking at the old me. I say the old me, like the before, and everything was physical. Like, something hard happened. I was like, oh, go for a run. Hey, client, no, get out of bed, come to me. You're going to be fine. Work it out. And then after that happened, I was like, how dare I have been so naive to realize that there's some things that are not fixable. No run will ever fix. No workout will ever fix. Okay, now we have to do the hard work. And that is the mental and the emotional. Easy to run from it. But like, doing the hard stuff is what empowers you to lead a life where no matter what happens that's out of your control, you're in control of how you react and how you treat people and your emotions. And so, yeah, I'm a totally different person than I was May 10th, 2012. And I attribute that a lot to my son, who's not here, and a lot to my kids, who like gave me reason, and still give me reason, to like show my best self, and show them that no matter what happens to our family, we have tools, and you will develop tools to get you through it.
Mm. Mm. Well, you're an amazing person. And I think one of the things that I've heard you say before that kind of spoke to me was you were mad. And who were you mad at, Lisa?
That's a good question. Everyone close to me, because I feel like the ones that were the closest weren't going to go anywhere. So they saw my worst self, for sure. And I think the people I trusted, which would be then some of the medical professionals. Now that I'm not angry anymore, I realize that we're all learning together. And, some of the things that were said didn't land right. And I realized that, again, it's how we internalize them, and how we feel about ourselves in the moment when they're spoken, versus when time has passed. There's that saying that time heals all wounds, or time heals. It doesn't, I wouldn't say it necessarily heals. It definitely softens, and it gives perspective. So I have perspective now on the conversations that were had way back when. And there's this piece of me that is empathetic to the person saying them, because I realized they had no idea what to do in the situation either. Or the ones that didn't do anything or didn't say anything. They had no idea what to say. And so, and then I was,
What would you say to that person, Lisa? Because I think that's something that I've heard you say that really spoke to me, because I know I've been in situations where I've felt every bit of sadness for someone that I cared about that was going through something really hard, and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't do anything. And I think that you might have some advice for that person.
I think just a simple reaching out, sending even the simplest of heart emojis, or I'm thinking about you, or depending on your level of comfort with them, I'm thinking about you, love you. Like, you don't even need to say, I couldn't even imagine, because of course we can't imagine the things we haven't gone through, but like, not making somebody feel like they're in a boat all alone, making somebody feel like whatever boat they're in, you're willing to just sit there and put your arm around them and say, I'm thinking about you, or I got you, or I love you. Just even being willing to like touch the boat is because there can be when somebody doesn't say anything or somebody's like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's almost like you feel like they want to stay away from you because they're afraid of you and you're already afraid. I was angry because I was so mad that this was our story now. I'm like, Greg and I had, when we were college sweethearts, I felt like this, like, we'd worked really hard to get to where we were and this happened. And I was so mad this was our story. But again, perspective, back then, a lot of people said things happen for a reason. Oh, I wanted to punch them in the face.
That's not
when they
the
said
right
that.
thing to say.
But I used to
Not
say
when
that.
you lose a child.
And I don't think I would say that in that situation, but I used to say, or maybe believe in that. And what I say now, perspective, is I don't necessarily believe things happen for a reason, but I believe that we can bring reason and meaning to the things that happen to us. So in our situation, we were so excited to have these twin boys. I have 3 siblings. I'm one of 4. I love all of my siblings dearly. And I was so bummed that Luke was maybe not going to grow up with a sibling, especially because he had a womb mate, I guess they call them. And so I remember saying to Greg, I'm like, we have to try to grow our family way sooner than I would have done it. I'm sure if we'd had the twins, but Luke and Ty, his next brother, who's 11 now, they're 15 months apart.
That's what my boys are. That's another thing we have in common. My first 2 are 15 months apart.
Yeah, and they don't know life without each other. And I mean, his name's Ty Brady, and he like wears his brother's middle name with such honor. He's such a heartfelt soul, and I feel like the way that we've raised our family, talking about the hard stuff, honoring the grief, but not making it their story, more so teaching them that you really do have the control to bring reason and meaning to the things that happen to you in your life that you're not okay with. So that would be it. And I don't know if I just went outside of your question, but
no. So I know one of the things that you did was you wrote a book. That's one of the many things that you've done to give. Well, how did you get to the point of wanting to give back? How do you go from I'm angry, I'm sad, my heart is broken, to I'm going to give back and I want to help other people that are experiencing this? Like, how do you get there, Lisa?
Oh, you just suddenly feel, you see somebody that's going through something that you've been through and you know how hard it was. And I just felt called to extend my hand, however that helps somebody else, whether it was volunteered on the parent advisory board for the NICU and was often the first one to visit families in the NICU who had experienced loss, because I could do that because I'd been there. And I remember the person that did that for me was such a lifeline, and they were such an instrumental part of the journey. And then I could do that for somebody. And whether it was that or, the book came from, I read so much in the beginning, and a lot of it really didn't help because it was written, I think when somebody was still in the angry stage or whatever, jealous stage. And I remember thinking, this is not making me feel better. Plus, it's not really moving the needle. What did move the needle was when I realized, okay, this would be helpful and this would not be helpful when I was grieving and everybody wanted to know what they could do for us, going back to what to say or what not to say. I would have loved to have an email that I could have just sent all of my people. And I remember thinking, I'm going to write a little quick book. And so I joined up with a publisher who had these itty bitty books, and it was a short read because you don't have time to you don't want to sit in it. And it's actually for family and friends who are wondering what to do to help their loved ones. And then I wrote it, and it was intended for the hospitals so that when it could go in that packet that you got when you were sent home, either with a newborn baby, or maybe you're going through loss, it could go in there and that was just because I needed it. And then I wanted to create something that I was confident with and that I knew would help somebody else. So I think the things that we choose to do to pay our experiences forward are really individual and really heart-centered. And I've also talked to people who've never done anything. They're like, I'm never doing anything with this. And that is 100% perfectly fine, because some people don't want to touch it. It's too painful.
Yep. Yep. I think that's really an important thing to say, that it's not necessarily your job to help other people, but if that's what you feel like is what you're being called to do, then that's very different. Talk about, Lisa, how your family acknowledges Brady.
We have Brady Day, which is May 12th, he passed away May 12th, 2012. So every May 12th, the first one that rolled around, again, I was angry. I did not want to be anywhere near Davis or the hospital. It was also Luke's birthday, and Brady's birthday. So I remember we went down to San Diego. Yeah, it was all of it. And we went to San Diego, spent it by the beach. It felt great. And I thought, it didn't feel great, but I was glad to be somewhere by the water. And after that, and once the kids, once our family grew and the kids got bigger and they were able to be a part of it, we love the water. We boat a lot, wakeboard, water ski, all of it. And we now go out on the water, if we're near it. Actually, I think every year we've been out on the water. I can't believe I'm going to say this, except for this Monday. I'll tell you why in a second. But we go out, and the kids, we all write a little message to Brady on a rock or whatever, and we water ski and wakeboard, and then we'll stop and just kind of reflect on all the good that's in our life. And it's a celebration of family. It's a celebration of life. It's a acknowledgement of a boy that isn't with us, but definitely shaped our family. And we toss the rocks in the water, and it's just like, I don't know. I love it.
It's also, you're teaching your kids that just because something bad happened, you don't need to ignore the day, and you don't need to, like, that was a life, and you're celebrating his life, and they look forward to that day. And I'm sure it creates a bigger bond between them too, as brothers and sisters. I think it's beautiful. I love Brady Day. I think of it a lot. That is a great lesson. I think Brady Day is a great lesson for all of us. I've encouraged other people to do similar things when they lose their parent, or anybody, just to find a way to celebrate them, versus in the beginning, of course, you have to grieve. And I think, and this is just Kelly thoughts, but one of the reasons why I think you are thriving and your family is thriving is because you did sit in it, Lisa. You acknowledge she's been on other podcasts where she really goes into detail. I told her I wasn't ready to do that today because I'm so sensitive, and I've been listening.
And I told you, thank you.
and she was okay with that. So I love anyone that's listening to this that wants to hear more about the story, because she does a beautiful job of talking about grief and sitting in it and the anger. And that was the one thing in it. Maybe it's my personality, but like being mad at people and not wanting to talk to people and shutting out the people that were closest to you. And we talked about this together at the retreat. Like, you were mad at some friends, and you were mad at, and I think that's really okay. It's okay, because you were mad, and you were feeling all those things, and you let yourself feel. You didn't try to mask it, because it would have made sense to say, I got to take care of this. Let's think about how hard it is. I know he was in the NICU, but you're still nursing. You're still doing all of the things that you have to do as a new mom. You still have all those hormones. It would have been really easy to say, like, I just need to worry about this baby, and I need to not, like, and I think that would have really made where you are now feel a lot different. The other thing that you guys to do is on Christmas, you hang a stocking for Brady. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we do. We hang a stocking for Brady, and we try our best to put in every day or as many messages of gratitude into the stocking. And then on Christmas, we read them. And it's kind of cool because it's been going on for so long that
Mm.
the kids are older. They can actually write them themselves now versus me
Yeah.
writing them. So it's neat to see what they're grateful for. And, I love that his stocking is there because he's a really big presence in our family, that's just there. Even,
Yeah.
and I think that going back to Monday, that we didn't get out on the water. We're gonna get out on the water, but we had like soccer tryout, the stuff you can't miss, the Mr.
Yeah.
Tryout,
Yeah.
whatever.
That's the stage you're in right now, Lisa.
And I just said, the kids at the end of the night were like, we didn't do anything. My husband and I went out and had a picnic. It was awesome. But I said to the kids, you guys, today was so busy and everybody was going in so many million different directions. The purpose of Brady Day is that we're all present with each other. And there's going to be a day in the next few weeks that we're going to go out on the water and we're going to all be present together because that's the most important thing. Is being present and celebrating each other and getting rid of all of the noise. And so there's sometimes where I've like felt this pressure, we got to do it on the day or oh my gosh, I didn't put gratitude into the stocking. That's okay. And if there's years that like you can't quite make it happen, there's these traditions that we create, and when they become traditions, they're important and they're gonna happen. So whether it's, and then also again, if you try things and you're like, oh man, that didn't really sit right. I didn't feel like that was a really great celebration of the day. That didn't make me feel, try something else. It's not, there's no cookie cutter for any of us who are grieving or honoring somebody that we've lost. And I just think that finding things that you look forward to, taking back control of situations and of days, and there's still, this is interesting. The boys were born between, my water broke at 3 a.m. and the boys were both born by 3:38. For the last decade, I have woken up with no alarm clock between 3:15 and 3:38. And that happened again this year. And it was like I woke up, and sometimes I wake up and it's not a great feeling. It's a sad feeling. And I woke up this year and I was like, hi, Brady. So it's more of those signs and the signs and the whispers and the days that we create. And that's the beauty after a loss, is that you start to look at life and you start to do life a different way. And I feel like it's on the next level for our family. And, I'm proud of the way that Greg and I have handled it. And I'm proud of the way that we've taught our kids to,
The fact that they were like, hey, wait, we wanted to do something on Monday, even though they were busy, that tells you something right there. And I think that I believe in signs, and I believe in whatever you want to call them, winks, God winks, whatever you want to call them. But I've heard you say that the advice that you would give somebody is what, Lisa?
The advice that I would give somebody
is to look for the signs.
To look for the signs. To look for the signs.
Yeah.
To look for the signs. I had this story in my head that I was thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and tell your story.
Well, no, we talked earlier about a dream, and that was what was sort of the catalyst for me to get out of my really deep, dark grief. It was, I'd slept on the couch for weeks because my water broke in bed and I didn't want to get back in bed. And I had a dream about a friend of mine who had passed away when she was 30, and she had breast cancer, and she just got married. And I remember at her memorial, her husband spoke, and he was so sad that they weren't going to be able to have kids together. And this dream of mine was powerful. I was in my house. It was very dark. I had a motorcycle helmet on, and it was filling with water, so I felt like I was drowning. People kept coming to the door, ringing it. I'd open it, shut the door because I was pushing everybody out. Everybody out. I was angry. And I looked across the room and it was bright and light. And my dear friend was there and she was standing there and she was holding a baby who, she was holding Brady. And I remember thinking, well, I was dreaming, but I remember waking up from the dream sweaty and immediately thinking I have a choice of which side of life I'm going to live on and which side I'm going to grow and foster. And I got up from the couch and I went up to my bed and I just made a decision right there and then, like, we're going to turn this around. And so that was a huge sign and a huge whisper. And I'm going to share another really quick story because I feel like this is full circle. It just happened. It's not a dream. It's not a whisper. It's just an observation. I've never been a cat person my whole life. In October, for some reason, I said, sure, we'll foster this cat because my daughter really wants a sibling. Not happening. But she really wants a cat.
Sibling. She's got 3 brothers.
A younger sibling. She got a lot of siblings. A younger sibling. She's so maternal. And so a friend, these like 2 cats showed up at her house and she found out they'd been abandoned. And she's like, I have enough animals. I can't keep both of these. And I was like, okay, we'll just like, I guess keep one for like a couple weeks, figure out what to do with it. Fast forward 6 months. We still have this cat. Terrible foster parents because the cat got pregnant. So the cat was pregnant. And I don't know anything about cats, right? So now I have this pregnant cat. And I was like, we got to see this through. We'll give the kitties away. We'll be responsible with this. I leave 2 weeks ago on a girls' trip. I was in Palm Springs for a music festival. My husband is at a soccer tournament for a few hours out of Davis. 2 older boys, Luke and Ty, are home. I get a few calls from them. And I was in the middle of something. I was like, I'm going to call them right back. Called 3 times, picked it up. Mom, the cat just had her babies. And I'm like, what? I was like, how do you know that they had, how? And my son goes, well, we were sitting on the couch watching TV and the cat walked in and she was skinny, meaning she had no babies in her belly anymore. So then these 2 boys had to go find these babies. They were in my daughter's laundry hamper, 6 of them. Okay, 6 of them. So I'm freaking out on the other side of the phone listening to them. And then my son goes, Mom, 2 of them passed away. I think they're not alive right now. And 4 are alive. And I was like, okay, are you guys sure? Are you sure? Can I call the neighbors? Can I call somebody that knows about cats? And they said, no, Mom, we got this. We're Googling. We got it. Long story short, they are total bosses. They took care of the whole situation. They made sure the mom cat was fine. My son, Luke, my oldest, wrapped the 2 that hadn't made it in little, like he wrapped them up in little towels and put them in little shoebox coffins. They totally honored the grief in this. And then they like tended to the mom and the babies. And one of my sons the younger one goes, Mom, she's incredible. She's already breastfeeding. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? But my point of this whole story is those 2 boys, 11 and 12 at the time, dealt with birth, death, and life like total bosses. And they were, it was the most incredible experience listening to them and thinking to myself, we're raising capable human beings to deal with a lot of different sides of life. And
that tells me so much about your boys right there. I don't know your boys, but I know your boys now. That tells me so much about your boys.
But so that's not necessarily a whisper. That was a huge sign of, look at this full circle moment right here that they're handling. So yeah, that was really cool. It just happened and leading up to Mother's Day and their birthdays and Brady Day. And I thought that was a gift. This cat that randomly showed up, this whole situation was a gift.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to look at it, Lisa. I'm not sure if I could have that perspective.
Yeah, you would. If you heard your boys on the other end of the line.
So I do want to say to all the moms out there that so Lisa and I, her kids are about 10 years younger than mine. Exactly, actually. And I've been at conferences with her where she's left in the middle of the night to be back for sporting events. And I can really relate to how she feels like she wants to be doing more in her career and her business. But she's got this family. And I just like when we have those kind of conversations, like, mom to mom conversations, I can relate so much to what she says, but I also just want to tell her, and I'll use this as an opportunity, that she is doing exactly what she needs to be doing. And she always puts those children first, and you will never regret that. And that doesn't mean you can't be a working mom, and it doesn't mean that you can't do things that you love and have passion for your own fitness and being an instructor and being a coach and being part of the mastermind. You can do all those things, and showing your kids that you're doing all those things is a form of being there for your kids, because you're being there as a role model. I felt like there was, just like you did, I know I felt like there was times, and my kids felt like there was times, they used to say, you like your boot campers more than more than us. Or they would say, like, I would miss something, or I would be late to something, or you're never here for warm up, or whatever it is. But I always did the best I could. And I know that it was good enough. And I just want to like pour that into you, because I feel like you sometimes feel the same way that I felt at that stage of life. And then you get to a stage where they don't need you as much, and you have the time to spend a little bit more time doing some of the things that you have developed a passion for. And that's a great thing too. So there's stages, and you are doing it exactly right, Lisa. I think you are an incredible mom. You're an incredible human. You give back to so many causes. We didn't even talk about, you started a foundation, and I know that you have it on your heart to serve other moms. I know I've been at retreats with you where you've talked about a talk that have you crafted the talk? Is the talk, have you done the?
I have. Well, it and ebbs and flows. I think it depends on the groups. I've spoken to groups of people who are going through loss and the acute part, and the talk is always focused on how important it is to find community, or to surround yourself with community, and to move your body. And I think that goes back to what you and I do and why we do it. I know that, again, even like being in this profession, it was hard for me to go back to Fit House. It was hard for me to go for a run by myself. And so I knew enough to surround myself with people and to say, hey, I need to get out of my house. Will you go for a walk with me? Because in the beginning, I was scared to do it by myself. I was scared of my emotions. And then, even having Fit House and I remember going to a yoga class, and being on my back, and I started crying, and the tears went right in my ears. So I call it the tears in my ears practice. But I actually had my mom there with me then, because I knew enough to surround myself with people who could help me through the stickiest points. And that's why I do what I do. And that's why I still do what I do. As a coach, I'm going to be there for you when other people are scared to get in your realm. And I know that, some days are going to be hard to show up, but it's important, because you've got to feel it. You got to sit in it. Like we talked about, you also have to move with it. And as we know, exercise and endorphins, and finding something that brings you joy and even gives you like 2 minutes of peace when your body's on fire with grief or whatever stress you're going through, is so important. And I think just with all the roles, that's how I show up with my family too. I know when my son needs to go into the garage and lift some weights or do something, and movement has always been a form of medicine for me. And so now having the experience of how it really helped me emotionally move into this future self, it's like not a negotiable. It's like, no, anybody that I meet that is going through something, if that's not a part of their toolbox, then I'm going to make sure I help them figure out a way to move. with grief. And so I've been doing the presentations that I have been doing have actually been really focused on the scientific reasons that you need to move. And then we'll do a workout. And some of these people haven't worked out in 20 years. And I can tell you every single one of the presentations after the movement piece, people are smiling. And I'm like, there it is.
Well, you said that earlier, Lisa. You said early on in our podcast, you said you were talking about Fit House, and I don't think you used the word heal, but you definitely said it's a place where people go and they can feel, and that it helps them with whatever there is that they're going through. And I know that that is true. And that is a wonderful feeling. We always want to help the person that we once were, right? Whatever it is. And I know the feeling. I know as a fitness business owner and as a coach, what it feels like to have someone that's been through terrible pain and grief, and to be able to have a place where they can go to feel loved and to feel supported and to be a part of that. I think that that is such a special thing. And I think that, you already had Fit House before, but it became probably even more powerful and purposeful as you've experienced what you have. And I just love that you have found a way to, and again, I want to say it again, that it's not, you don't need to do it the way that you've done it, but you found some way that helps you in your process, where it helps you to give back and to share it with your family and to teach your three boys and your daughter, who's going to be a total rock star. PS, oh, we need to talk in about 6 years. We really going to need to talk. But I could just picture your house every day. I know exactly what it looks and feels like. And it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's awesome too. But you've definitely, obviously, just the story you shared about the cats. That that is such a beautiful demonstration of what you've taught them and who they are and how strong they are. That and how independent they are. It's just great. Lisa, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I know that your story is going to really help people. And I know that the process was, the pain was so much, but I feel like you have just done so much work to get to where you are now. And if you had to give one piece of advice to someone that maybe was in a hard spot, maybe it's not even grief, maybe it's just a feeling of loss or sadness or being stuck, what would you say?
I would say find your tools. Find your tools, meaning once you develop tools to help you get through challenging times, there's a confidence that comes with that. And I think we're all leaders in different facets of our life, whether we're running companies or we're parents or we're coaches and the ability to be vulnerable and share that we, not share it all, but just that we understand that times can be tough, and then also the ability to share that there are tools that we all have that help us get through situations that have the ability to stop us in our tracks. I think as leaders, if we demonstrate the tools that we have and we share them, then there's a conversation and a connection that happens, and people are empowered to realize that they also have tools and they also have the ability to find and develop the tools, whether it's community or movement or paying it forward, or there's a whole bunch of them. But find your tools, because once you have them, you have a new superpower, and that's to know that whatever life hands you, you have everything that you need to take control back and to bring reason to what happens to you and to face it head on and to not get stopped.
Yeah, I love that. So awesome. So powerful. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Kelly, you're the best. And this whole podcast name also, Start Before You're Ready, it's my favorite because often I sit on things for way too long. And I realize, no, you can't think about it for too long. You just have to do it. So
just like Todd told you back when you were getting into the fitness industry. I love that.
Yep, you're my inspiration to go do something today to start before I'm ready.
Yes, well, you're doing a lot, girls. All right. Thanks so much, Lisa. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Start Before You're Ready. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might need a little motivation. Ready to start your own journey? Check out our workouts and nutrition coaching programs at kellysbootcamp.net. You can choose from in-person sessions or virtual programs. Set up a complimentary coaching session to get started. Follow along with me and the show on social media at Kellys_bootcamp. Until next time, this is Kelly Young reminding you that the best time to start is always now.